Broad Street diet, striping proposal. And, Corey, you want to?
We need to, I'll give a little bit of background, Mayor, but before we hear from the general public, we'll have to open the public hearing.
Okay, we'll open it up. Need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Mayor.
Second. Have a second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, we're now in open session for the open meeting, and I'll call on our town manager to explain what we're doing here.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Tonight, the first of 4 public hearings that we have is for the Broad Street Road Diet striping proposal. We will host a public hearing to discuss the proposal from NCDOT to consider the road diet for the upcoming paving of Broad Street. This proposal would reduce Broad Street from 4 lanes to 2 with one turn lane and a bike lane on each side. This project would span from Virginia Road to Church Street. The proposal is to accommodate bike traffic and to help traffic calming vehicle traffic on the Broad Street corridor. This proposal would be done in coordination with the repaving of Broad Street by NCDOT. This proposal is also part of the North Carolina Department of Transportation Bike and Pedestrian Plan. And so that's what we'll speak on first. And you have the...
Okay, first up is Emil O'Leary. You have the floor. Please come to the podium.
Yep.
Tell us who you are and who you live.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm Emil O'Leary, and I live at 507 North Broad Street, which is across from Hicksfield, and I've lived there for over 40 years. Actually, yes, we do have accidents, and a great many of them is because people have forgotten what that little turn signal's for. I know this because I've seen it, and it's happened to me. Someone decides they're going to turn, especially at the Freemason, and then, oops, I have a turn signal. I think I will turn it on now since someone's hit me in the rear. So I do know that. There aren't many bicycles up there. The only time we've ever had anything you might consider a quantity of bicycles is when I guess the clubs come and they camped out there at the high school, in front of the high school. We had more of them. But there aren't many, and I've ridden my bicycle up and down the sidewalks there. Never bothered anybody, never hurt anybody, and people don't. If you see a bike coming, you can move out of the way and the bike can go by. I think it would be dangerous if we only had one lane, because it would be harder to get in and out and harder to turn left. Matter of fact, you couldn't turn left down most of the driveways if you were coming out with only one lane of traffic, because there would be a continuous flow of traffic. Sometimes at noon, I've had to wait a whole 5 minutes to turn left. And I go head first out, front first. It might be best to consider putting a bike lane on another street and not on Broad Street. Because Broad Street is a busy street and it is one of the main streets into town, which means it's going to have traffic and it's going to have 18-wheelers and it's going to have large trucks. It's not made to be a showy street. It's not like Church Street or Queen Street or King Street or Water Street. It is a commerce street. It moves commerce. And sometimes it can get pretty noisy. And I think the survey was done in the middle, it was done October, November of 2021, in the middle of COVID, when we were all supposed to be locked down, which doesn't say much for a survey. And if you're going to do a survey on something like this, then maybe you should hit the homeowners along the areas where the survey is going to be. And that wasn't done. You could have mailed the survey. No one thought to mail us anything. No one thought to talk to us. I only heard about this is because a friend of mine told me this afternoon. realize it has to be done promptly because the DOT wanted to repave the street. And that's good. But I think there are other means to do things. A bike lane, you put a bike lane down there, bikes are gonna get hit. These 18-wheelers coming to town, they have to move. We have the cement trucks that turn there on Freemason Street, coming and going, they need room to turn. And sometimes they have to move fast because they have wet concrete and wet cement in their trucks, and they've gotta go to point A to point B quickly while it's still wet. So, I think there are other streets and better streets for the bikers to enjoy the rides and not have to inhale the dirt from Broad. And Broad Street is a dirty street as far as the dirt from cars and whatnot. I know that because my front porch is filthy. Doesn't matter how many times I wash it. Thank you.
Thank you. And what I forgot to say to start with is, please hold your time to 3 minutes. We will have a stopwatch on it, so please hold your comments to 3 minutes if you can, please. Next is John Collins.
I don't have anything to add to what Emil just said.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next is Alan Swanner.
My name's Alan Swanner. I live at 200 Terry Avenue here in Edenton. I've lived here all my life. I can remember as a boy when Broad Street was 2 lanes, one in each direction. And the wise people back in the 50s and early 60s, when it was changed it to 4 lanes. So that cars, pickup trucks, big trucks could move up and down the street. I think trying to change is just a smokescreen for, we don't need bicycles on the street itself. There's plenty of streets, like she just said, that they can ride up and down, be much safer. And I agree, if you had 100 bicycles every day, but we all know 2 or 3 in a day's time is all you're gonna have other than that 1 week out of every 2 years that they come. I'm just against the changing it. We need people to be able to go and come up and down Broad Street. And if you've got to wait, people turning, I think you're gonna create more accidents with the turn lane, because people are trying to cut across the turn lane, go left, go right. I just think it would be a big mistake to change it from 2-lane road to the turn lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, the next is Bob Kirby.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the Town Council. I'm coming here tonight to discuss or to speak on this, I think you call it traffic calming. First comment, I'm looking for a traffic impact study and I can't find one. Maybe there is one and it hasn't been widely distributed, but I would think that for such a major proposal as modifying the traffic on Broad Street, there would most certainly be a traffic impact study. I believe that if you do a traffic impact study that encompasses public safety, including your fire department and the Chowan County EMS department, I think you might find that there are some significant concerns with the directors of those departments with respect to what the proposed modifications may do to affect their time to respond to public emergencies, traffic accidents, fires, other EMS necessities. I'm concerned, and I did not say this at the outset, I live at 236 White's Landing Road. I own property at 601 North Broad Street. It's the extended stay right across from the high school. I'm really concerned about being able to access my property turning off of Broad Street, if I'm heading north on Broad Street, turning into my property. That center turn lane at that point is going to be congested with traffic coming to and from Johnny Holmes High School, coming to and from historic Hicks Field, athletic events and what have you, etc. The August the 8th, 2022 Bicycle and Pedestrian Project Acceleration Plan that was published by the county, I looked at that to get some of my, my talking points here. And one of the concerns I have with that particular plan as well, this plan I think was prepared during COVID. It's obvious. If you look at the photographs, you'll see everybody's wearing a mask. Those were the bad old days, I call them. The area that one thing that I'm concerned with is the demographics that are listed in that study are flawed. They actually indicate that Chowan County has had population growth as of 2019, had population growth at a rate of 48.1%. That ain't the case. Chowan County has been flat for about 20 years at least. So you really need to go back to your basics, and again, I urge you to do a traffic impact study. Other areas of concern that I have is the tractor trailer traffic on Broad Street. And finally, I go to church at St. Anne. There's a Sunday only parking area in front of St. Anne that I'm concerned that our handicapped parishioners, they will lose that parking. They will not be able to park on street so they can get to the church. One last comment, I urge you, instead of looking at creating bike lanes, keep the 4 lanes that you have and use the outermost lanes as sharrows where they share bikes and vehicular traffic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. The next is Vonna O'Neill.
Good evening. Vonna O'Neill. I live at 305 North Broad Street. I've lived here for 19 years. However, my family goes back to the late 1600s to 1700s. So if that's important to someone, then so be it. Anyway, I looked at a study from 2007 to 2020, and that study only looked at bike traffic and walking. And that was actually not only for Edenton, but also for the state of North Carolina. At the time, they said North Carolina is actually the least safe state for biking or walking. And what do we say about Edenton? We say we're a walkable town. We invite cyclists to come into town as well. And granted, that's only a certain amount of time for the cyclists, but I think if we're embracing them, we need to embrace them all the time. When I look at Broad Street, I look at the density of population there. So I look at, there's a school, there's businesses, of course there's the fire department and the EMS. There's an aging community on that street, but there's also some young folks walking up and down with baby carriages. There are some cyclists, there's 2 churches, the post office, visitor center, and the farmer's market. Seems to me like we're encouraging a lot of people on Broad Street, aren't we, with all of those things? Then I look at the speed limit. Granville's 25, Oakham's 25, Albemarle's 25, Carteret's 25, Queen and King Street are 25, Broad Street's 35 miles an hour. And I've witnessed people going 45, 50 miles an hour down that street. That's part of the reason we're having all the accidents. I embrace this plan because when I turn into my home, I cringe when I'm trying to turn over. Actually, it's 2 yellow lines down there. Actually, in order to not break the law, I should be going up, turning where there are no lines into Carteret or Freemason, and coming back down and then turning into my driveway. I embrace having the turn lanes. I think it would do a lot to calm the traffic as well as to reduce the number of crashes we've been having. We had one just on Sunday last evening, and the truck wound up in Peter Bowling's in his front yard. I shudder to think if that had been during the week when there were patients going in there. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, the next is David Herlong.
Hello, I live at 301 North Broad Street with my wife Cynthia. We've been here since 2019. Yes, we moved here during the pandemic, but that doesn't seem to have affected the speed of traffic on North Broad Street. seems that people, motorists, enjoy coming up off of Albemarle, turning left onto Broad and seeing how fast they can get down to the Dairy Queen. It leaves a safety factor. There's a noise factor. I think we have some noise ordinances in this town. I don't know how you would enforce it there, but if you could slow traffic down, it should cut down on the noise, especially from those vehicles that seem to have lost their mufflers somewhere along the way. Trucks, large trucks do come down Albemarle. It's down MLK and from Albemarle. It's the shortest route to get from Highway 17 into central part of town. That does create a bit of a problem on the corner. I live on the corner, so I get to hear and see them make that turn. But I think anything you can do to slow traffic, encourage a lower speed limit, and maybe have some occasional enforcement action to let people know that we really are watching and it will matter. A few well-placed traffic citations I think would go a long way to bring the safety factor back in. One last thing, I think we need some pedestrian striping for crossing the road there at Albemarle and Broad. It's a popular route to go to the farmer's market, as well as going from the east side to the west side of town. And it will bring more attention to motorists to that it is a crossing, and that might be a way to help slow things down, if that's of any help. Other than putting speed bumps in the road, I don't know of anything else you can do other than make an effort to inform people of the speed limit. Maybe again, lower to somebody, has mentioned it here, as Bonnie mentioned, down to 25 rather than 35. Because people are still going to go 10 over the speed limit. But I encourage anything to do to lower the speed limit, lower traffic, calm traffic for safety and noise. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the next is Gary Swanner.
Thank you, Gary Swan, live at 121 Kimberly Drive, native of Edenton and travel Broad Street all my life. I don't agree with reducing it from 4 lane to 2 lane. Putting 2 lanes of traffic in one direction into 1 lane, as busy as the street is, it is going to slow it down. It's just going to cause more headaches and more aggravation to your patrons driving those streets. And I think that's going to create more problems. As far as a bike lane, again, there's not that many bikers that use the streets regularly. They've been in the past, they've been able to bike any street they want to go on. I would encourage you to look at a different route as far as your bike lane. Why not use a redevelopment and redevelop the sidewalks down Broad Street? Go in and make them wider, 6 foot, 8 foot wide, like doing it at the beach. Put your bikers in more ample space for walking on the sidewalks, and let the street be for the vehicular traffic. It's not going to make any difference, I don't think, in safety or other issues that's been discussed, reducing it from 4 lane to 2 lane. I'm in favor of keeping it 4 lane as it is, and maybe doing something on the sidewalk sides to make it more friendly for walkers and bikers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the next is John Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Town Council. Thank you for this opportunity. One thing I was curious about is where does this actually start and end? Because I wasn't quite sure looking at the diagram. Does it start at Church and go down all the way down to Virginia Road?
Yes.
It goes down to Virginia Road.
Okay. My concern is, especially there at Church Street, I watched it again today, a tractor trailer coming up Church, turning right onto Broad. The car had to back up in order to allow the truck to make that turn. A bicyclist not paying attention is gonna get creamed. People trying to turn right on Broad Street are gonna cross across a bike path, and if they're not paying attention, I don't think there's enough education in the town as far as that, how that would operate, to allow that to be safely done. I'd encourage town council, if you haven't already, to look at the Connect Edenton thread regarding people's opinions. I would also encourage you, when you have the next public hearing, to have the police department and the fire department and EMS all provide their input as well, so that we know what their actual thought is. Was there a feasibility study done recently regarding this option? I know Mr. Kirby mentioned that, and I was actually curious as well as if anything was done by. was
North
done-
Carolina DOT did the study. We did not do it.
Okay. So it was done several years ago, not recently.
I don't know what it was done. 21.
21. Okay. All right. Those are the questions and comments I would have. I don't think it's a good idea based on people turning left and right into various alleyways and so forth. I think that would be more of a danger to the bikers than putting a path in. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the next is Deron El Suarez. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Was asked to speak. I did sign the sheet. I don't have any comments.
Okay. All right, and next is John Mitchell. This ought to be interesting.
Mr. Mayor, Town Council, you've already got a major problem as it is that hadn't been mentioned tonight. With the plans for remodeling Home High School, the traffic on Park Avenue that enters Broad with Dairy Queen on one side and the fire department on the other. If you're up there any afternoon between roughly 2:30 and 4 o'clock, you will see so many situations where people stop and stagger and look a dozen times trying to be safe. It's a spot waiting for major accidents. And what you're proposing here is not gonna make it any safer. That's something this council ought to look into now. Not wait till the school's completed, but do that now. And secondly, I would imagine you have the resources within a member of the League of Municipalities. I know they do a lot of research work, or at least they did in years past. I have no reason to think they've stopped doing it now. Bring their expertise and experience from across the state to bear on this situation. A third thing, I grew up on Granville Street in the 1950s, and it was a major issue then to get the trucks of any kind off of Granville and have it just for pedestrian. If you jimmy around the patterns on Broad Street, you're going to recreate, though it may be unintentional, traffic hazards on Granville and Oakham. You really need to take this serious. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next is Patty Mordecai.
Thank y'all. My name's Patty Mordecai. I'm a Town of Edenton resident, and we have lived at 307 North Broad for 20 years. A question that I would ask rhetorically is how many have recently crossed North Broad on foot? I did this afternoon. It's an incredible challenge. And the reason I think we don't see more bikers is because we don't have a bike lane. If we have bikers on the sidewalk and they're about to run into you, which I know is Town of Edenton, it's illegal to ride your bike on the sidewalk, which people do. That's an issue there. If you spent a week living on North Broad Street, I believe that you would see this as a safety issue, not a convenience issue. You may be inconvenienced by another 3 minutes to get to the food line or the Dairy Queen, but I don't think that that would preclude someone's safety and well-being. We need to slow the traffic to create a more neighborhood feel, which is not possible with the level of traffic, speed, and the inability to cross the street. Over the last 20 years, we've seen the volume and speed of traffic greatly increase. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen 3 serious accidents just on our one small block. I have a student at John A. Holmes who walks to school, and for that reason alone, I support this completely. Slowing traffic and allowing for a more walking, biking friendly area will be beneficial for all of Edenton, not just the residents of North Broad. This is progress and a return to a historically correct Main Street. One opinion that I have about the suggestion to broaden the sidewalks would simply take away from personal property, and you would have to take out historically prominent trees. So that would certainly be an issue for the beauty of Edenton as well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next is Alan Sykes.
Good evening. I'm Alan Sykes, live on West Egan Street. I've only been here 50 years and 6 months. Unlike Mary Scott, I don't post on Facebook very frequently, but I did last night. And I'm gonna read it to you, because I've gotten 98 comments from it in the last 24 hours, none of which I anticipated. I said, with literally hundreds of large trucks passing by the Edenton peanut mill daily, which is where I work, where the Tony Mill is on East Church Street. After turning at the post office, anyone who believes this is a good idea doesn't understand the reality of traffic on Broad Street. My office literally sits 20 feet from that road, and I hear them constantly all day long. Industrial trucks, agribusiness trucks. My office building literally shakes as they run across that old railroad track. You just don't realize the number of trucks that come through East Church, turning at the post office, going North Broad. Frankly, what's needed is a bypass down where Leonard Small lives, but he doesn't want it. And I know Cliff Copeland years ago tried to put that in place, and that failed. But until you get these trucks out of Broad Street, you don't need to be considering anything of this nature. You're going to create, as John Mishner just said, a havoc on Oakland and Granville Street. It's going to back reverse on you. But again, I got 98 comments on this, and about 97 out of 98 of them were in favor of what I just said. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the next is Jimmy Alligood.
Jimmy Alligood. I live at 106 Hughes Street here in Edenton. I've been here about 52 years, Olin. Yeah, just a little bit. I've got a couple of questions and a couple of points I'd like to make. Back talking about the trucks on Broad Street, back in '87 when I was on the town council, from '87 to '99, they had a study out. The State Department come in and did a study about putting the route from Country Club Drive, or not Country Club Drive, Soundside Drive, all the way through to Peanut Drive. Does anybody, after I got off the council, I don't know whether the project stopped or what, but does anybody know the results from that? That's something to think about. I've also thought about what's the cost of all this. Has anybody even asked about the cost of how much it's going to cost to do the study, how much it's going to cost to restripe it, to do all the laning and everything that they're talking about doing? I haven't heard anybody say anything about that. I mean, it's not going to be cheap. By no means, it's not going to be cheap at all.
Jimmy, I can only tell you what it's going to cost us. Zero. This is a state sanctioned thing. The state is paying for it.
I'm still paying state taxes, so.
I think we're all aware of that, Alan. I think we're all aware that the state taxes come from us. I think we're all aware of that.
I agree with the statement somebody said about the sidewalks, making them more bicycle friendly. I think it is something that should be looked at instead of, changing the traffic pattern and stuff like that. When you cut down from 4 lanes to 2 lanes with the turnings in the middle, people are going to be passing in that turning middle, I can tell you. And I wonder how many vehicle accidents have happened in that area concerning bicycles. Very, very few, I would say.
Who is that?
Very few. I mean, I can remember when right out here they wanted to stop the U-turn. I mean, that's just something you need to think about, really and truly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, and the next one, I cannot read this. Whoever lives at 306 North Broad Street.
You can't read my name.
I cannot. I'm sorry.
For the record, Louise Artman. Do you
Okay,
see the A
thank you.
now? Okay. 306 North Broad Street. I have lived on Broad Street for 35 years. Not 50 years, not 52, but 35. Long enough to raise my family there and to know that Broad Street, when I first moved there, was not nearly as bad as it is now. People are advocating things that were in the past, the convenience. I agree with Patty. I'm talking about safety. It is incredibly unsafe. I have a one-way driveway. I do not have an egress out the backside of my property. I take my life in my hands every day that I either drive in or drive out of that driveway. To address the proposed compromise that was to make the sidewalks more pedestrian, bicycle friendly by widening them. They're already wide. To do that, you're either gonna have to take property from the homeowner, or you're going to have to, as Patty said, cut down trees, because you're gonna be cutting into the roots. If you don't cut down the trees, then you'll actually be killing the trees. We are a tree city, and I think that that is something very important to consider. The very first time I drove into Edenton, I saw that tree-lined street and thought, wow, how beautiful is this? I think maybe you could come up with a compromise. People seem to be really against the bicycle lanes. I will grant you that. I am a biker. I have had an accident, not necessarily because of a car, but yes, an accident. And it was very painful. I broke my thumb. Now, what you might consider doing is not putting the bike lane in, but I have advocated for over 25 years, get this traffic slowed down. 4-lane down to 2-lane with a center turn lane. When I came in from church yesterday, I see all the blue lights and the red fire truck lights, and I thought, gee, that looks like my block. And sure enough, it was. And I can tell you that people have had numerous accidents. I have lost track over the years. How many accidents have occurred out there? When I first joined St. Paul's Choir, the alto that eventually returned to choir and sat next to me had been hit as a pedestrian trying to cross Broad Street. You need crosswalks, you need a center lane for turn, because when people cannot see around both lanes of traffic and they're motioned, I know my time is up, when they are motioned to go across and they're hit by the person speeding in the left-hand lane, there is a huge safety issue. And I really think that maybe there is something that you can do to accommodate all points of view and not have this is going to be it, but perhaps you could modify the plan a little bit to accommodate the biggest need, which is safety. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, and the next is Lanika LaBird.
Good evening, guys. My name is Lanika Liebert. I'm a fairly new resident of Edenton. Part of the 48% that has graduated and moved to Edenton within the last 2 years. As you know, I deliver to most of you guys, either in your home or at your place of work. My concern is the two lanes that, the lanes that I'm looking at as far as what you guys are proposing is basically making North Broad just like how West Queen is. And several things I see wrong here, and I speak for everybody in logistics, not only the post office, but UPS, FedEx. There's a lot of people that are not allowed to drive into your homes as far as driveways to use them. That's an automatic safety concern, not only for the people that are walking, but also for the people that are delivering. As far as double parking on North Broad, it's already bad when people are tailing us when we have our hazards on, because your hazards mean that you're going to be making frequent stops. There's some people that need to go back into the driving manual and recognize what those mean. That's not what I'm trying to say. As far as safety concerns, that one-way turning, it's a bad idea. I've seen plenty people, just like the lady said before me, they cannot see, especially when a tractor trailer is coming from one direction and they're trying to make a turn. You cannot see left, right, or behind them, especially if you're coming from the opposite position. Another thing, on North Broad, you can't tell people how to drive into their homes, of course, because that's their homes. But I witness a lot of people, they drive into their homes, and just like a lady said before me, there's no roundabout, so they can actually turn and face the traffic on North Broad. So I see fairly a lot of people, and I've almost actually had accidents where people are backing out of their driveway, which is so unsafe, onto North Broad, making U-turns, not making U-turns, and that's also a safety issue. Another thing is, I don't think anyone recognizes that North Broad from Virginia Road to Freemason is extremely narrow. After you get past 411 North Broad, then North Broad starts to expand. So if you have that one lane, that center lane turning for both left and right, just like people said before, coming down on that right side, that's an automatic accident. Nobody can see. I don't know if they're paying attention or not, but that's just a bad thing, not only for delivery, for logistics, but as far as customers who live on North Broad coming in and out of their driveways. A lot of people don't park, just like the guy said about the people on at St. Anne's that park on Sundays. That will get diminished because of the one lanes. And also just taking into the fact that North Broad is narrow once you pass Freemason going towards Virginia Road. It expands. So you having that one lane turn, and then I don't know if people understand how much traffic the post office generates. So you having that one center lane for turning, number one, it's gonna mess not only the drivers up that actually deliver to you guys. We have tractor trailers coming into the post office. We have tractor trailers leaving the post office. We have tractor trailers making that right turn from Church Street, bypassing the post office. Whereas people have said prior to me speaking, there's cars that have to back up in order to let those tractor trailers pass. So that one lane starting from Church Street, I don't necessarily think that's a good idea. If you guys are concerned about safety, I come from a big city. I come from New York. If you guys want to think about speed cameras, maybe slow people down. I know people don't like getting tickets. I'm pretty sure of that. So maybe you can put speed tickets or not necessarily traffic cameras, but speeding cameras, so it can minimize the speeding if you guys are worried about speeding. I would necessarily say crosswalks, because North Broad, although there's a lot of people that walk, I walk to work every day. I live at 106 East Carteret, so I don't necessarily have to cross the street all the time, but there are instances where I do cross the street. Make North Broad a little bit more inviting for people to cross. People would actually slow down for pedestrians if they notice a crosswalk. If there's no crosswalk, people are gonna think, oh, I can just go on. And there's plenty of times I'm walking either with packages or just by myself where I have
Sir,
to.
I'm gonna have to call time on you. 'Cause
Oh, I'm sorry. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, now next is Julia Townsend.
Hello, Mayor and the council. Thank you for this time to speak. First of all, to reduce trucks coming down Broad Street, they're somehow in the Google search and so forth, they send the trucks down Broad Street, whereas if you can go into the search engines and be sure that the trucks do not do that they go around the other options through town. And I know this for a fact, not me personally, but asking a truck as it's struggling down there. That would reduce part of the traffic. Next, as a cyclist, I love the idea of a bicycle lane going down Broad Street. I think it's terrific, but I just don't think there's enough space for it there. When I turn the corner on Paradise kind of has the proposal, if I'm not mistaken. Paradise just feels wider. I haven't had a chance to measure it, but like other people said, I think Broad Street is just too narrow. Would love to see the bicycle lane up on the sidewalk. Hate to kill trees. is it not possible to put a lane between the trees, on that little bit between the trees without killing the roots? I don't know, that would be something I would love to see. But after all of this, what seems far more urgent is to get the crosswalks, Food Line, you know, all the ones along there, the intersection at Virginia Road. We just need crosswalks more than we need a bike lane right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, and the next one is Chess Chesson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Town Council. I'm here on behalf of Destination Downtown Edenton. My name is Jess Chesson. I live 210 East King Street. I was born and raised here, and now run our Main Street America program downtown. The Department of Commerce conducted a study in February of 2023 and acknowledged that our Edenton's walk score is 57 out of 100, and our bikeability score is 73 out of 100. Our bikeability score is one of the highest that they've seen in the state of North Carolina. The NCDOT recommends us leveraging that and continuing to improve our bike infrastructure. A study completed by the Real Estate Advising Group, Robert Charles Lesser and Company in 2020, acknowledged that people looking for residential housing, the top 3 things that they were looking for were green space, trail systems, whether that's outdoor recreation or paved trail space, and then a Main Street Village shopping center that offers retail and cafe places to gather and socialize. Furthermore, industrial site consultants have ranked quality of life as the number 3 for industrial growth and employee recruitment and quality of life for downtown. So from an economic development point of view, addressing our pedestrian and biking options is going to be is vital and crucial for us to continue seeing residential and industrial growth in Edenton. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, and that was our last person signed up to speak to on this particular public hearing for Broad Street. Corey, did you want to give your speech on that at the end?
I will. I'll go through what we have for the next public hearing, Mayor, and then I have more information to share with the committee during the Public Works Committee session.
Okay, all right. All right, and the next one is the public hearing on Granville Street and West Albemarle Street.
Thank you, Mayor. The next public hearing will be to discuss a proposal from NCDOT to consider making the intersection of Granville Street and West Albemarle / Dr. MLK Jr. Avenue a 4-way stop. Due to increasing speed concerns and the number of collisions at this intersection, this new proposal would add stop signs to Granville Street, both north and southbound lanes. All vehicles would now be required to stop at this intersection with flashing lights updated to red for all 4 travel directions.
Okay, now first person to speak on that is Alan Swanner.
Name's Alan Swan. I live at 200 Terry Avenue. I don't know why you think if you put stop signs up on Granville Street, they're gonna stop for that. They don't stop for the caution light. They don't slow down. I think it's a waste of time and money. Speed limit's only 25. It was dropped from 35 5 or 6 years ago. And people need to be able to get through town. It's not like you can just walk through town. You need to get through town. Go to work, go to business, and you keep wanting to drop the speed, drop the speed. But you know, if you do it away, you're going to drive people away instead of bringing them in. They want to be able to come, go to supper, and leave. You know, you keep putting stop signs where you don't need them. You have 1 wreck, 2 wrecks a year at that intersection. It's because somebody runs a stop sign. So I don't see where putting 2 more stop signs is going to make any difference. They're going to run the stop sign. You're still going to have the wrecks. I just think it's a waste of money. It's an aggravation to the people that travel that street. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, and next is Karen Maston.
Good evening. My name is Karen Maston. I've lived on North Granville Street for 6.5 years, not 56.5 years. I live 3 doors down from this intersection, and many times during the past 6.5 years, I've been at home and heard a crash, gone out my front door to see an accident. The worst one I recall was an SUV flipped on its top and a man lost his fingers. Another one recently was when a town employee was struck while driving his mower vehicle there. Fortunately, he was not seriously injured. The 25-mile-an-hour speed limit is correct, and a few people do respect that. Many more do not. This is a residential neighborhood. People walking across the road. On one side, there is no sidewalks for a while. And like myself, trying to back out of my driveway. If a stoplight is not possible, and I would be more in favor of a stoplight there, then I urge you to put this 4-way stop there to slow the traffic down. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. And the next is John Mister.
Mr. Mayor, Town Council, the intersection West Albemarle and North Granville. On an afternoon many years ago, I nearly lost 2 family members there. My wife in her new car and our daughter sleeping on the back seat. And somebody ran that corner and whacked it good. I'm amazed that they survived. You need an effective stop sign at that intersection now. Stop. Stay stopped. And make sure that folks can cross. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And that ends the one for West Albemarle Street and MLK. And now we'll go to the public hearing on Terry Avenue and Robin Lane. And the first speaker there again is Alan Swanner.
Alan Swanner, 200 Terry Avenue. That's the street I do actually live on. I've lived there for 45 years. They put a speed bump there sometime in the last 6-8 months. I understand that a lady on the corner and one of the young men in the neighborhood drives a sports car had a confrontation one day. She was hollering at him to slow down. He gave her the finger, which is not nice, but that's the way some people, young people think nowadays. I'm not gonna say he was speeding, because the speed limit's 25. But he drives a sports car, and we all know you could be driving 10 and mash on the gas, you know, so I don't think he's speeding. That's just a thing. And the town came in and put a speed bump. As far as I know, it's the only speed bump on a public road in the town of Edenton. Correct me if I'm wrong. I do not think Terry Avenue needs a speed bump. I understand, I was told that if they put 4-way stop sign in, they're gonna take the speed bump up. I hope so. I'm against the stop signs also, but if they want to do something, I'd rather have stop signs than a speed bump. Because that speed bump is designed to tear your car up. You can hit it 10 miles an hour. I'd say the speed limit's 25, you hit it 10 miles an hour, you hit it, will hit the ceiling. It's designed or there's something disturbing. Like I say, there's a lot of roads in Eden, and it's the only one in the town of Eden that's got a speed bump. On a public road, not a private parking lot, but a public road. I think it needs to be removed immediately. And if you want to put stop signs there, that's up to you. I really don't care. Because where I leave my driveway, I've got to stop anyway. So it doesn't affect me. But I just can't drive out that way because I'm not driving across the speed bump. I ride a block down. Drive out either time I want to leave. Just aggravating. To satisfy one lady, you inconvenience 100 people in the neighborhood because they can't drive out that street. I don't think the stop sign is going to make any difference. That ruin is still going to take place by the young people. This leads to stop sign. So, you know, it's not no speeding. It just makes a lot of noise when they take off. But it's a nice, friendly neighborhood. There's people walking and biking all the time, all day long, every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. All right, next up is Gary Swan.
Thank you, Gary Swan. I live Kimberly Drive, which ties into Terry Avenue when you come out that way. I use that street a lot when I'm getting out of town. It's been a friendly street all my life, living over there, over 35 years. Never been a problem. There's people that's lived at that house for many years and never had a problem. That's not a speed bump there. That is a speed curve. You've got to stop to get over it. I mean, speed bumps, you can kind of slow down and you ease over. You don't slow down and you ease over that. It's ridiculous. If there is a problem with one or two folks over there, they can be identified and law enforcement could address it. There is no need to punish 20, 30 residential areas, folks who live back there, just over one little complaint somebody has. The four-way stop sign is not going to make a whole lot of difference at her location, because when I leave that stop sign, they got 300 feet. I can speed right on up, and before I get to that location, that speed bump is within 100 foot of a stop sign. How ridiculous is that? I'm against the speed curve that's there now. That should be taken up, and I don't think the stop sign is the main issue. Four-way stop. I think law enforcement of the one or two habitual people that are creating problems. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, next up is Dipna Madigan. Did I pronounce that correctly?
My name's Demna Madigan. I live at 406 Robin Lane for over 20 years. If I could comment on the Granville thing real quick. I was in an accident on June 29th at Granville. I don't think it had anything to do with whether the speed limit was 25 or 35, quite frankly. The person ran a stop sign, okay, and hit me. So I think that takes me back to this Robin Lane thing. I walk 2 miles a day, 1 mile in the morning and 1 mile in the evening. My dog and I could probably walk with our eyes closed through Oak Hill. And I will tell you that the speed on that street has not stopped because of those speed bumps. They usually start at the back, gun it, and come all the way and screech it to a halt at the speed bumps, go over them, or they go over the speed bump, hit the gas, and go to the back. I think the only thing that's going to stop the speeding, which I agree happens, would be as if you parked a cop there 24/7, and we can't afford to do that. I'm kind of like the other person. I mean, if you want to put four-way stop signs there, you might have a better chance because it's the middle of the road. But I think the same people who are breaking the law speeding are probably going to break the law and run the stop signs. I mean, I don't know if stop signs are going to stop anything. And like I said, I've been there over 20 years, but I definitely can tell you that speed bumps have done nothing, absolutely nothing, but probably tear up somebody's car that wasn't paying attention. I mean, it's just, they're the worst speed bumps I've ever seen in my entire life. So, and if you want to put up the stop signs, I could care less, but I don't think it's going to solve the problem. Unless you want to park there and give, tickets for running the stop sign. I mean, so.
All right, thank you very much, and that concludes our public hearings for this evening.
Motion and second to go out, since we didn't receive any comments for the fourth public hearing, but I will make one announcement on that, just so it was entered into the record. The public hearing will be held to discuss the proposal from Roanoke Connect to amend the joint use pole agreement from the pricing of $6.76 per pole to a price of $0. The amendment is in response to the town of Edenton's need for internet services at certain town-owned properties, camera locations, and public Wi-Fi within the parks and public space. This proposal would allow the town to utilize these services without an annual subscription expense for the services and/or any upfront cost of the installation associated with that equipment. Now we can close the public hearing.
Okay, I'll need a motion to close the
So
public
moved,
hearing.
Mayor.
Have a motion, do we have a second? Have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We are out of public comment. All right, the next we'll go into our committee meetings, and the first is we need a presentation for the utility billing fee, and that's going to be with Corey Gooden, our town manager.
Thank you, Mayor. When you want to pull that up, one of the things I know we've been trying to work through, and it's taken us quite a bit of time, Virginia and myself, as well as the billing clerk, Jessica, have been working through this. We wanted to go ahead and pull together kind of an overview for our utility billing fees. We've had quite a lot of conversation over this. Let's see here, we have discussed it on July 24th as well as September 12th. And what has been requested after that was that the staff present a history and details for the fee structure. That way council has time between now and the upcoming budget year to have a better idea of how to proceed. Currently, the town of Edenton has a total of 3 fees: the 5% late penalty, a $25 non-payment fee, and also a $75 disconnect fee. I will provide an overview of this structure as well as the history of the customer service policy relating to these penalties. The goal is to provide council with a full understanding of the changes and to allow them to review any potential changes for staff considerations for the upcoming budget of fiscal year 24/25. All right, Dwayne, you can go to the next one. So we look at an overview of what the town has. Currently, there are 3 total fees associated with utility billing: a 5% late penalty, which is added on the past due account on the 3rd of the month at 5 p.m., a $25 non-payment fee, which is added to the past due account on the 10th at 5 p.m., and third, a $75 disconnect/reconnect fee added onto the account the day of disconnection after all the overnight payments have been processed. If one of these dates fall on the weekend, it will be added on the following business day once payments have been posted. When we look at the history of these, the 5% penalty as well as the $25 non-payment fee have been in effect at least since 1996. The earliest customer service policy we have on file is from 2015, so we're not able to verify the exact implementation date, but some of our staff has been in since 96, and both of those penalties were in place before they started with the town. One thing that is new, it was the $75 fee for disconnections, which was implemented on July of 2022, this past year's budget. When we look at the revenue overview, fees are distributed in a 75 to 25% electric versus water and sewer breakdown. Each of these is based on the percentages that the enterprise fund makes up of the customer's total bill. This is an initial estimate. If we look at our fiscal year 23/24, electric revenue account penalties total $65,000. Water and sewer revenue account for penalties totals $20,000, of which the overall utilities budgeted for fiscal year 23/24 is $85,000. If we look at the historic budgets for fiscal year 22/23, this total was $65,000, and if we look at fiscal year 21/22, the total was $65,000. To your right, here we have the actual budgeted from fiscal year 19 all the way up until this year, as well as the actuals that were shown there. We increased to $85,000 for the fiscal year 23/24 because 1, the 4 previous years actual totaled $75,000, and 2, the overall electric rate increase would step the new baseline up this 10 to 12%, or roughly $85,000 from the actual previous year's $75,000. this is someone who has all services. We understand that some residents may have one or the other or some type of combination of these, but these show every type of charge that the town has for its services. Underneath that, you will see the impact of the 5% penalty as well as the $25 and $75 disconnect fees. That takes that bill from $62.43 to $165.55. Below that, we did the $100 increments from 100 up to 500 to also show what these penalties would equate to for most residents that are typically found within that range for their water and sewer as well as electric. And at this time, I will be glad to try to answer any questions the council may have, but I wanted to make sure everyone had plenty of time to look at this data and to formulate any questions as we prepare ourselves for the upcoming budget year planning that will happen just after the first of the year. By April, we'll have those meetings.
Realize it was that soon.
Yeah,
Okay.
most department heads will start to send in stuff as year end because they'll have a 50% projection on where they are for this year to try to forecast where they'll be for next year. So I wanted to get this early. I know that we've got time between now and the holidays to really work on any questions for us to start getting more answers. But I was asked to try to provide a general overview for council, and I hope that this satisfies that.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions of Corey on his presentation?
I do. So I think it's on the overview slide. It's for the, I guess the 5% penalty and the $25 non-payment fee since '96. So I remember when it was me, you, Virginia, and Tammy. I think we had some clarity on that the $25 non-payment fee actually used to be the reconnection fee and not a non-payment fee. That's what we got the clarity on, because I think it was some gray area there. And the $75 reconnection fee was an after-hour fee. So we kind of pushed everything down. We had kept the 5% late fee. We created the non-payment fee, which was, again, the reconnection fee, $25, and then the $75 became the reconnection fee, was what we had discovered when Virginia looked it up.
Well, based on everything we went through, both of those penalties have been at or near those dates for those first two since at least 1996, and the only thing that has changed in the last 5-year span was the $75 fee that was disconnected. Now, before that fee was implemented, there was an after-hour turn-on fee that was there if someone called after 5 o'clock to have services come back.
And then the publication that we sent out and the mailers and the billing and the bills, it stated in that little flyer that one of the new things was the $25 non-payment fee. We highlighted one of those, so I would go back and check that as well. But that was something that was new that we added last year, and I think it was highlighted in that packet as well that we were given as a change in the customer service policy.
So one of the quarterly newsletters showed that the $25 fee was something new.
It wasn't a newsletter. It was a flyer that we put into billing. Once we implemented the new changes.
Anyone else have a question or a comment?
Thank you for doing this, though.
Yeah. Okay, now we'll move on to our committee meetings, and the first is our administrative committee, and that's chaired by Councilman High.
Thank you, Mayor Stallings. We have 2 items to review tonight. The first is an annual update from our Human Relations Commission. We received a 3 or 4 page document within our packet, which reviewed the initial initiatives of that commission, initial objections. It also included a page and a half on the initiatives that the committee has tackled this year and the things that they have done this year. You also have at the bottom of page 3 some things that were added to their initiatives and objectives and mission statements back in February of 2021. And the Human Relations Commission felt it would be important not only to give us this annual update that they give, but also to establish some initiatives for 2024. And those are listed on the last page of the documents we received regarding the commission. What we would like to do is for council to review these initiatives and see if they have any comments, but push it forward to our next meeting and adopt the objectives and initiatives for 2024. And also the intent, I believe, Corey, would be for them to continue to make annual updates to us. And I think it's a part of their desire and our desire to have a living, breathing, working commission, as opposed to a commission that just addressed one issue and one issue only. So we envisioned it as an ongoing thing, and it appears that they're doing a good job managing that and making sure that it continues to address issues. So I think other than that, there's not a whole lot to add other than let's continue to look at this document and push it forward to adoption in December.
And we will share with them any updates that council may have. If you remember last year, we had one iteration where council reviewed the document and actually sent it back to the HRC to let them know what council was okay with, and that's the goal here. One other thing, council, to consider, we do have 2 vacancies that are active commission members. If you remember, there were 2 alternates part of this group when this was initially set up. The 2 former alternates, Cynthia Hurlong and Dr. Emma Bonner, the HRC as well as myself and Councilman Bond would like to request that they be appointed to that board to fill those 2 full-time vacancies. And what we would do is revisit our applications to have folks who are still interested to come back to council to be considered for the 2 vacancies that now Ms. Hurlong and Dr. Bonner would have created.
Would we wait till December to decide on Ms. Hurlong and Dr. Bonner?
We would go ahead and do that appointment at December, but the plans would be also to have the additional alternate candidates in that's interested, at least interview, and council could make a decision to appoint them as well. So the goal is to do this all by December because we would like to start on these initiatives calendar year 2024 to begin work.
Plus, those 2 are up to speed. They've been there from the beginning.
Yeah.
Every situation that the board has covered, they've been a part of it.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're replacing someone old with someone new. They're up to speed.
Great.
And that was the purpose of having the alternates.
Yep.
So they can step right in. Matter of fact,
that's good.
Karen, she's in there now, and you know we haven't missed a stride yet. I'm serious.
And Mr. Step.
Bonner, she comments on everything, so
whether you want it or not.
had 2 of the best, so we're good to go.
That's good.
Yeah,
That sounds good.
We'll say, you know, they got the job.
So just if you have any comments on this, let Corey know so that he can work with the Human Relations Commission between now and that December meeting. Mayor Stallings, the next item for discussion under the Administrative Committee is electric pole service agreement amendment. And I'm going to hand this mainly off to Corey to discuss, but Roanoke Connect has been busy going across town and establishing its network and trying to improve Wi-Fi here in Edenton, and they have been working with Corey regarding amendments to our joint use pole agreement. So Corey, if you can give us some background on that and where we are on that.
Thank you, Councilman High. If you remember November 8th, 2022, just over a year ago, outside of the town limits, basically our entire electric network. Since this time, we have worked very closely with them to near completion of this project. I want to thank the general public as well as the staff who have worked with them on being patient. I know there's been a lot of inconveniences and a lot of things that have not been as favorable. I think about this too shall pass as really kind of where we are now. We're kind of in the short rows. This thing is really starting to finalize. And one of the things that we've determined since November of last year is that there were some additional internet needs that the town had at some of its assets. There are a total of 6 locations, actually physical locations, that were included in your agenda packet, 55 cameras as well as various parks and public places. The cost of the annual service agreement for the town, if we were to purchase internet each year from Roanoke Connect, would be in excess of over $70,000, and that does not include any installation costs. One of the things that we have looked at is what the potential overall value of the modification of this agreement can do for the town. If you look at a 5-year plan, you're talking about over a savings over $350,000 on the town, just for having internet at these locations over 20 years, close to $3.5 million. I am recommending that the administrative committee consider amending the fee structure of the joint use poll agreement to $0 from the original agreed to price. When we consider making this amendment, I'd also like to add that we consider including language in the amendment about the town's service expectations as well as repair and or maintenance times for these locations. Based on what I've seen, I've had conversations with our peers from Elizabeth City. We went through a lot of this together. Of course, the number of assets that they have and the value that they're seeing from a very similar agreement, is quite a bit larger for us. But when we talk about $70,000 a year just in internet services, that's quite a bit of savings. So my recommendation is that if approved by full council, that I could work with the town attorney to amend the original agreement to make 2 changes. One being the pricing for the per pole attachment fee, as well as the town's expectations with Roanoke Connect to be our internet provider. If you have any questions about these locations, they were included in the packet. And I did not include, for security reasons, our camera locations, but those would, there would be a total of, that would be 61 physical assets that would be added. And if we were to look at this on a year-by-year basis, we're talking about anywhere from $60 to $80 per month, per unit, per endpoint. So this is quite a big savings for the town. I've worked with Ford on a lot of this. One of the things that we've struggled with when we talk about some of these physical assets as well as our cameras, because of the lack of fiber in our area, a great number of our locations that need internet are actually provided that via microwave signals, not actual physical lines. So storms, winds, misalignment, it can create a problem. So for us to have fiber at each of these network locations, that's very important, and Court and I went through this a lot. This is something that the county IT as well as the town IT director is very interested in as well.
And Corey, I just have a few questions, Mayor Stallings, if I can. Corey, I recall somewhere, haven't we had specific examples where some serious crimes occurred and we went to our camera network system and it happened to be down and the camera system was of no use to us?
That is correct.
And was that attributable to the internet or was it attributable to the cameras themselves?
It's attributed to the internet.
Okay. And you had mentioned that there would be a cost savings on the expense side. on the revenue side, if we drop our use agreement down to zero, what is the effect that that has on revenues?
Between $25,000 and $30,000 a year.
Okay.
That we would be seeing from them versus the 70 to 75 that we would pay in annually for these services to have internet in these locations.
So on balance, does the cost savings exceed the revenue that we're giving up?
Yes.
And is Roanoke Connect the one that came to us and said that they are going to provide free internet to people that may have a reduced lunch or free lunch student in their home?
They were one. I know the county is working with a provider out in the county bands that also were looking at tiered cost towards children, homes of children that meet certain criteria, yes, and Roanoke Connect was going to offer the same thing.
And then lastly, did you say that Roanoke Connect, are they working with Elizabeth City or they are?
And so I spoke with Manager Freeman last week about this. Of course, you know, they have hundreds of assets, unlike our accounts, you know, more than triple what we have. We think of pump stations and cameras and actual buildings. This was something that was of tremendous value to our peers in the East.
So you're saying a regular person can hook up to this internet service?
Yes.
A regular person.
A regular.
Determine a regular
Define
person.
regular.
Someone that works or someone that's retired, you know,
Yeah.
not a million.
I don't know where you get that from.
Yes, and so in addition to the town being a potential long-term customer from this, residents and businesses will have the same opportunity to pick, if they so choose, Roanoke Connect as an option.
Okay, what would that option go into?
There are some areas that the installation work has already been done for the network. Last conversation I had, they were over 80 customers on their network within the town limits, and that's only going up.
Okay. And that would cover the whole town, everybody?
So anyone with electric service from the town would have the option to call 5E/Roanoke Connect and have a conversation with them if they were interested in them as an internet provider. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions? So, Mayor, we would just recommend that this be moved to the December meeting. We'll consider this at that time and put it to a vote. Appreciate it, Corey. That concludes our reports, Mayor Stallings.
Thank you, Councilman High and Mayor-elect.
Thank you, sir.
The next on the agenda is the Public Works Committee, and that's chaired by Councilman Miller.
Well, Mayor, we have 3 items of business, and they're all traffic-related. First is the Broad Street NCDOT road diet, and as we all know by now, Broad Street is due to be resurfaced by NCDOT within the next 8 to 10 months. Recently, town staff met with NCDOT officials to discuss the Edenton bike and pedestrian plan. This plan was discussed because of the upcoming Broad Street corridor paving project. The town staff's discussion with NCDOT officials centered around the public's and council's interest in making certain changes to the Broad Street corridor. This includes reducing the Broad Street traffic lanes from 4 to 2, installing a one center turn lane, and creating 2 bike paths. NCDOT said that they would entertain making this Broad Street changes if the town staff and Edenton residents showed interest in wanting these changes. A letter of support from the town to NCDOT would be required prior to NCDOT authorizing any changes to the Broad Street corridor. Public Works Committee recommends forwarding this Broad Street change request to full council on December 12th. The second item is a 4-way stop request at Granville Street, Westwell Albemarle, MLK Avenue intersection. As you are aware, NCDOT has scheduled the Granville Street corridor for resurfacing in conjunction with the Broad Street paving project. At the same time, town staff were discussing the topic of changes to the Broad Street corridor with NCDOT. Town staff also mentioned to DOT officials the possibility of a four-way stop being added to the Granville Street, West Albemarle, and MLK Avenue intersection. This change was discussed because of the upcoming resurfacing of Granville Street. At this meeting, town staff brought up the general public's interest in slowing down traffic at this particular intersection in an effort to avoid auto accidents. NCDOT officials mentioned the success they had seen in reduction of auto accidents at other town intersections once four-way stops were put to use. Again, NCDOT would consider making appropriate changes at this particular intersection if the town staff and Edenton residents were in favor of this change. Again, a letter of support from the town to the NCDOT would be necessary for DOT to consider the change request. Mayor, Public Works Committee recommends forwarding this four-way stop request to full council on December 12th. The third item is a four-way stop request at the Terry Avenue and Robin Lane intersection. Earlier this year, in an effort by the town to address traffic safety concerns in the Westover neighborhood at Terry Avenue, temporary speed bumps were placed between West Queen Street and Robin Lane along Terry Avenue. Instead of utilizing these temporary speed bumps, one option to consider for a long-term solution is the placement of a four-way stop at the Terry Avenue Robin Lane intersection. Many residents in this part of town have voiced their frustration with the speed bump solution in reducing traffic speed in this particular neighborhood. Public Works Committee again recommends forwarding the four-way stop request at this area to full council on December 12th.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any further questions or comments? If not, that concludes our agenda for tonight. We are dismissed.
Did you want to?